Hey guys, so today we're going to go over the top 5 reasons why the Korean healthcare system is so famous and so highly regarded, probably the best in the world, and definitely so much better than the super expensive American healthcare system. And I hope in some ways by giving you very specific examples, we can kind of think of how healthcare is delivered in a different way, where essentially it's not going to bankrupt industries, the government, and the people, and then also deliver better care, offer more choices, and essentially offer more freedom and security in your own body and health. All right, so let's start off with number 5. This is not in the order of importance, but number 5, you probably want to know, how much does it cost? How do people pay? How is it even determined? Well, the national healthcare insurance system, essentially everybody gets to have it. Everybody sort of has to have it. So even if you are now going to come to Korea to live as a foreigner or an expat, you have to sign up for the Korean healthcare insurance. Eventually, you do have a waiting period, I believe about 6 months. So they don't want these people coming and flying in, getting health services and then flying out. So you kind of have to wait as a person who lives here for about 6 months, and then you can register for the national healthcare insurance. How much does it cost? Well, the system that determines how much you pay is on a sliding scale, and that sliding scale is the same for everybody because the government determines point values for essentially how much money you have and how much money you earn. So number 1, the point system is based on your income. Number 2, it's based on your assets, and that includes like land and property. And number 3, a car. Although I've seen this slide in and out of the point calculations because some people are like, a car? Why a car? But at least in the latest thing that I've seen, there is a line item for a car. I have called the health insurance before and I said like, oh gosh, that car thing, I thought that was ridiculous. Why is it still in there? And they said like, no, we took it out because people were saying that that is not a fair thing. But then I see it also on my bill that there is a line item for a car. So, however, would rich people hate this system? Because is there a limit? I believe there is a limit on a few $1,000s. But yes, if you are like super uber wealthy, you are contributing more to the healthcare system. And just a fun little note, the actual national healthcare system here in Korea is always in the positive, like in the black. They're not losing money, but the critical factor that allows them to stay profitable, even though it's not really for profit, or not lose money every year and require money from the government, is that the foreign population essentially pays more into the system than they take out. Like it sounds like they probably go see the doctor less, or they don't use the medical services as much as the Korean population does. So when President Yoon Suk-yeol was trying to be xenophobic and like targeting the foreigners, taking advantage of the medical system people from the insurance agency, they're just like, look, don't mess with our bag, okay? Because if it weren't for the foreigners, we'd be probably asking the National Assembly for funding every year because we'd be in a deficit. So if you're just wondering, no, the foreigners do not take advantage of the medical system, even though they probably try to, they're actually keeping this high quality system afloat for Korean people. Number 4, so the entire nation is open to you. There's no restricted doctors or hospitals or networks or in-network, out-network. Essentially, the entire country is your network. The only problem is that if there's a famous doctor and you can't get an appointment, but even still, that's really pretty much a rare situation. You can literally go to any medical professional that is a licensed medical professional and receive services. There's no primary care doctor that you have to see first and then get a referral to a specialist and then wait or see if that they approve it or not. No. You want to go? You can go, and you can go anywhere. Number 3. there's really no waiting for appointments. Even if you didn't make an appointment and you just walk in, you literally don't have to wait, especially for things like primary care. And there are almost doctors, internists, eye, ear, nose, throat doctors, pediatricians on almost every corner here in Seoul and in most major cities. Every subway stop, there'll be numerous options. You don't have to pre-register with them. You don't even have to have a relationship with that doctor. If you are just literally on the way and you're just like, oh, I need to see a doctor, I'll take my chances. I'll go in and see, if there's a lot of people or not a lot of people. I'll just go in. For example, I was thinking like, oh man, like I feel like I have like an eye. It's kind of weird, but that a TikTok trend of like, kind of like strandy eye, it might be TMI, but like a strandy eye mucus. And I was just like, this is kind of crazy. Like, I don't know, like, do I have to go to an eye doctor? And I was just like, the eye doctor is so like far away where like, they specialize in eyes, and far away meaning like, maybe I would have to, drive 10 minutes away or go several stops on a bus. I wanted to go walk across the street, okay? And so I was just like, I think they're open right now. Before I go running, literally, I was in my running outfit, and before I go running in the park, let me go try to see that doctor. Now, that doctor essentially is a pediatrician, but I think she's trying to basically expand services a little bit to get adults because, declining birth rate in Korea. And so she is a pediatrician though, but even you can just walk into a pediatrician's office. And I was like, and I thought that, little kids, they get eye infections all the time, so she would probably know. And I was just like, I think I just have like some sort of irritation. She said like, it's either a infection or it's an allergy, so let me just give you these prescription for an eye drop, and we'll see from there. Now, I went in, and there were other people there, other little kids, and I probably waited 12 minutes. Like, it wasn't quite 15 and it wasn't quite 10. I think it was 12 minutes. But even waiting 12 minutes, I was just like, oh, geez, should I have not come? Should I have just come later? Or should I have made an appointment? Like 12 minutes? 12 minutes. That's the expectation here in Korea. You can literally go walk across the street, no appointment, just kind of this thought in my head, like, maybe I should get some prescription eye drops for this, weird thing that's going on TikTok. I don't want any part of it. I want it just gone. And she saw me in 12 minutes. I went across the street to the pharmacy, and it was 3,000 won, so less than $3 for these prescription eye drops. The actual doctor's visit itself was probably like $5. So every time you go, you do pay something, but it's very, very small. And so there's no waiting for appointments, and because there's so much available, I believe that in a way is a win-win for the health insurance system, because people go quickly, they go often, so problems do not turn into big problems for people who go see the doctor pretty often. And it's facilitated in a way where you can go see the doctor pretty often. And when they write these prescriptions, let's say you have a cold, they don't really write you like a huge prescription for a month. It's basically for a few days to a week, and they ask you to come back. And so in that way, you're not overprescribed these antibiotics or medicines. And then at the same time, you get to see the doctor again. And for the doctor themselves, they're charging, I believe, relatively lower prices than definitely in America, but they see you more often, so then you come again. So even though I paid maybe $5, she's probably getting from the national health insurance probably at least $20, and that was maybe like a 3-minute visit. And yes, there's still bedside manner, and there's still care, but you don't have to be like, oh, hi, how are you? No, just get her done. And that's why, even though I waited 12 minutes for this pediatrician, she had seen like probably like 2 or 3 kids right before she saw me. Like, so it's in and out, in and out, in and out. And it's very clear in terms of like what they're trying to do and what your given outcome is going to be. And I believe that is why there's early detection is everything here. Number two, the nation negotiating on your behalf with pharmaceutical companies, the hospitals, the entire medical system sounds like it may be a bit of a recipe for disaster, but in this case, it actually, I think, works splendidly. Because to fight like for drug prices, what's gonna have more sway in a negotiation? The entire country's system, whether they're gonna be a customer or not, or one insurance group or a hospital group, or like, it's so siloed, I believe, in America. So no one group really has enough power to stand up against a big mighty pharmaceutical company. But here in Korea with the national healthcare insurance, they are essentially representing the entire nation. You don't get along with them, you don't even get into the country. And standardizing the prices just basically takes a load off of everybody, especially the doctors, so that they do not have to deal with insurance companies and different policies and different prices, or whether this drug is available for this, because the doctors apparently in America do have to get into that, because if they prescribe something and then their patient can't get it because of their individualized insurance, then they have to go and research an equivalent drug that is maybe available at the pharmacy that they go to. No, there's none of that. None of that.
Every day we spend hours going through check boxes, typing notes, documenting things that we're supposed to document for billing purposes that we really don't think improves patient care. And the more that we spend time with computers, the more that we spend time billing, that leaves a lot less time for face-to-face interaction with our patients.
Everything is the same. The doctors can just focus on giving medical care, and the system is just streamlined. And so it is more efficient, more powerful for the patients and healthcare workers' position. And in the end, I think it just makes it easier for us to not have dysfunction and just focus on getting healthy. And number one, you do have the option to add extra individualized insurance. So you might be wondering like, I don't know, what if I don't like the Korean healthcare system? And what if there's things missing in there? Well, honey, the private insurance system, from the Korean companies like Samsung Insurance all the way to like foreign companies that come in that you would recognize their names, they're all selling supplemental insurance policies, including health insurance. So the cool thing about knowing with the national healthcare system is knowing what is covered and what is the amount of money that, or percentage that the nation will cover, and then what is your portion. And it differs based on what kind of disease you have or what kind of treatment you have, but at least you know up front. And if you are scared, let's say like, because I forget what that term is, but basically the percentage that you're responsible for in America, and then also a similar thing here, but I think it's a different name. The percentage that you are responsible for here in Korea, where you might get scared, is that essentially like you'll most likely not be responsible for more than 40%. It's about 30%, 20% for most of the things that you would have to pay out of pocket. And again, the overall price is much lower, so people don't even think that it's much that big of a deal for normal cases, primary care, or you got to see the internist or allergy person. It's 20 to 30%. And even then, if you still feel like that's kind of, I don't want to take that sort of risk because, what if I get a serious disease that's going to be expensive? And what is expensive in Korea? Like, I don't think you would ever, and nobody would ever imagine a healthcare bill over like $100,000, $50,000. It's basically like if you're on the hook to pay tens of $1,000s, you're like, oh, that's way too much. Maybe I should get extra insurance. Okay, ten to $30,000, I think, is basically just like one night in the hospital in the United States. And if the nurse or doctor touches your hand, that's another $300. I don't know what they're doing over there. And so people can get supplemental health insurance. So I've gotten that before, and it combines it with life insurance, and also there's a saving component. So like if you cancel the policy, you get money back. And so there are many ways to do the supplemental. So in the essence, if you're wondering about whether this is restrictive, whether it feels like there's no freedom, this is the most free in terms of like I can go wherever I want. I can feel like I can afford most of these things. And if just under the national healthcare system with no additional insurance, but then you add additional insurance on top of that, then it feels like you do not have to worry about your health, and you do not have to worry about some health incident bankrupting you at all. So let's give some examples on how this would work out. And so I gave you the example of the eye drop. So that was one little thing. The other thing that I've done before is allergy treatments, like the immunization against allergy shots. So there was the most famous allergist doctor who's also a professor over at Aju University Hospital. They're also known extremely well for the trauma. So like, if you get gunshot wounds or something, like you get helicoptered over there. But there's this really like famous professor, and she even says like, I'm the best in Korea. I was like, I know you're the best. That's why I am here. And you can just literally call that hospital, that department, and make an appointment with the most famous allergist in Korea. And over there, when they do the testing, like on the back, where they do the allergen test, it's the most complete, and everything is just wonderful. And they even give you like this little card so that it's easier to just like check in and pay your bill and all that kind of stuff. That doesn't mean like you only have to go here now. You can have like a card from every hospital in the country, and wherever you want to go, wherever you literally want to go. And so like these shots, like I was like, oh, it's gonna be expensive, and she's like, oh, it's so cheap. I was like, yeah, girl, but really. And essentially, like I believe like 6-month course or something like that. Maybe it was about like $300 out of pocket, but then because I have the supplemental insurance, it covered about 40 to 50% of that, so then it turned into about like $150. So that's how you can essentially see if it's worth it to get like a supplemental insurance. And of course, that also included other aspects, not just health. The other day, more recently, where I have some of the receipts, is I wanted to get, one of those vitamin IV injections, or like in the IV bag, just to basically recharge, some of my vitamins and stuff. And so I went to one of the small local clinics, like around the corner, and essentially I want to see like what the guy at the hospital gets, and then what, is charged to me. So it was a checkup, and in a way, I think this is how they kind of like sneak around with like this insurance thing, where it's worth it. The doctors aren't starving, but they figured out how to somewhat game the system. So I just wanted to have the IV drip, but apparently I had to go into him real quick for like 3 minutes for like a consultation. And so he did that, and that was covered. And essentially what he charged to the health insurance is essentially, let's see here, I had to pay $17, and then he was getting $42 from the national health insurance. agency. So that would be about like $60 for, a few minutes. But, the patient doesn't pay that much. Now, the actual the IV bag was about $58, and that is not covered by the national health insurance. So I was like, okay, that's fine. In the end, I paid like $76, and I believe that is still cheaper than the United States with like, if you do the IV bag treatment. And then I asked the lady at the front, I have the, private insurance. I don't know if this will be covered. And what they do is essentially is that the forms have been so standardized in Korea, where it's essentially like 2 or 3 forms that is the same format. And so every hospital can just easily say like, okay, well, I'll just print this out and you submit it. And if the insurance approves it or not, then you deal with it. So then the patient, me, I deal with the insurance, which I think is actually better because I don't want the hospital dealing with all of this insurance and wasting time and, slowing everything down. And I know my insurance agent better. I know my policy better. And I fight for myself better than the hospital would. And so I submitted it and then they approved it. And it's all on an app. You just basically either take a picture of a QR code and automatically the information goes up there, or you just take a picture of the receipts, and then they approved it for like 66,000 won. So remember I said I paid like 76,000 won, so basically I paid like $76. They approved it for $66. So in the end that cost $10 because I had the supplemental health insurance. So then boom, it's like, oh wow, that is definitely worth the health insurance. Now, what about something semi-serious? So recently I got my tonsils somewhat, there's like a partial tonsillectomy that they can do with a laser, and that's what I went to have done. So I went to, I guess he says he's really famous and he's treated, a lot of great people. And I wanted somebody who really just, does this all the time and really a specialist in it. And essentially, it was done like, in the same room where he just kind of does the consultations and stuff. So amazing. So for a partial tonsillectomy using the CO2 laser, let's say you just flew into Korea, you have no insurance or whatever, you want to pay full retail price, that would be 1.2 million won, so about $1,200, but with the exchange rate right now, it's probably more like $900 or $850. That's essentially with no insurance applied. So a lot of people, even if they don't have a lick of insurance, they'll still come to Korea because the healthcare is reasonable. I mean, it is reasonable for a doctor to make $1,000, even if there's like no healthcare insurance. Like they're not making these doctors like live in poverty because of the national healthcare insurance. Probably in the opposite way, because people are more comfortable with more frequent medical care. Okay, so that essentially is the price, like with not a lick of insurance. With the national healthcare insurance, I was on the hook for 442,000 won, so about 400. So if it's $1,200, I would pay $440, and then the difference is made up by the national healthcare insurance. So again, people aren't abusing this system because, even as a Korean person with just the national healthcare insurance and you wanted to do this surgery, it's not like no money to do these things. And so in my mind, for Americans, they might be thinking like, oh, well, yeah, actually $442, $400, that'd be like nothing. If I had 12 tonsils, I'd get them out all the time. But for Korean people, that is still a lot of money. And so you're not just like going around doing, just things for the heck of it. But now with my private insurance, I was able to get half of that refunded. So 220,000 won refunded. So in the end, that surgery cost about 220,000 won, or less than $200, because I had also the supplemental Samsung insurance. And so that is essentially how it works, in the sense, like, you want to reduce as much as you can to, in terms of like what you pay. Then you get your additional insurance. If you just want to go with a national healthcare insurance, you know that it's gonna, sometimes things will cost some money, but it's not gonna be anything that is going to bankrupt you. If you're wondering about medicine, so after the tonsil surgery, I had to take medicine, basically like pain medicine and antibiotics, essentially for a 10-day supply. It was cost to me about $15. Total cost $50. So the health insurance, national health insurance, will cover about $35. Now you go to the pharmacy, look, they even wrap it up for you. Each dose this is very common in Korea. And that's it. No, like one big old bottle. And the great thing is that they use a combination of medicine. So I believe, in a way, this is, I think, a little bit inspired by Korean medicine, because in Korean medicine, you do combine different elements and stuff. And so when I came to Korea, I was just like, wow, like, I would expect just to get like one thing, like one bottle of one thing, and that's supposed to knock everything out. But here in Korea, it's just like, a combination of different things. And so I think they can lower the dosages a little bit and see what works. And it helps like target target the issue at hand, but from different angles and different, medical technologies within the pharmaceuticals. And I believe that, that works. And in a way, I think that's also a concession to the pharmaceutical companies, by like, we're giving a big old pack, with lots of different, your drug gets in there, your drug gets in there, your drug gets in there. And so I've seen this in a way where this seems like a very functional system. It acknowledges the capitalist business part, but at the same time, it really acknowledges that healthcare is a fundamental right. It also acknowledges we have to maintain this system very responsibly and make sure, it functions without any kind of like financial losses or like massive support from the government. And also at the same time, it puts like the patient first, and the patient is so empowered here because you literally can walk wherever you want to go, drive wherever you want to go, be driven wherever you want to go, take the bus, subway. You can go wherever you want to go and get healthcare from whoever you want. And beyond, and if you're thinking, okay, well, beyond that healthcare system, the doctors are free to also offer services that are not covered by insurance. So they can do everything, the best of both worlds. And so I just don't see how the system in the United States can function this way forever, because at the end, I think there's going to be a revolution. If you see how other countries do their medical system.
Part of the reason I wrote the book is to say that's not normal in other countries.
And compare it, and especially when you are paying 2, 3, 4 times, 5 times more in the United States, and you can only see your doctor or get any kind of like meaningful action on like when it's serious. Like, never want to wait until it's too late. So, guys, I guess that's one long way to answer top 5 reasons why the Korean healthcare system is literally one of the best in the world. So how does your healthcare system work out in the country that you're from? Put your comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time, guys. Bye-bye.